She's the definition of a true friend and advocate. Her spirit is as bright as the fairy who follows her everywhere. And behind those encouraging eyes, there's the hint that she's destined for something bigger than just a simple life of a child of the forest. This is the tale of Saria of the Kokiri. Welcome to Lore with Lenore, an ongoing series where I examine different characters or different aspects of some of my favorite video games. In honor of the Legend of Zelda series marking its 40th anniversary, I wanted to do a deep dive on one of the greatest games of all time, and one of the first games I remember playing, Ocarina of Time. This is the first in a 7-part series diving into each of the 6 elemental sages, and eventually culminating in the 7th sage, Princess Zelda herself. Tonight, we'll take a look at one of the first characters that Link encounters in-game, his best friend and eventual sage of the forest, Saria of the Kokiri. As we get started, let's take a deep breath together. Breathe in and out. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and enjoy the story. Part 1. The Kokiri Forest. Before we meet our first sage, a little context on the world in which Saria existed. Those familiar with the Zelda timeline may recall that approximately 10 years before the events of Ocarina of Time, the lengthy Hyrulean civil war still raged across the land. Untold scores lost their lives in the conflict. Yet one group remained relatively sheltered from the chaos, the Kokiri, also known as the Children of the Forest. The Kokiri lived tucked away in a peaceful meadow deep within the Lost Woods, under protection of a mighty, ancient guardian spirit known as the Great Deku Tree. His powerful magic and the confusing maze of the aforementioned Lost Woods kept the battle from spilling into the secluded forest realm, until one fateful day when a desperate Hylian woman and her baby managed to make their way through the treacherous brambles. Following her intuition, the young mother found herself at the roots of the Great Deku Tree, safe from the war, but mortally wounded. Running out of time, she begged the guardian tree to look after her infant son. And, sensing he was a child of destiny, the Great Deku Tree obliged. He took the baby, named Link, into his care, and raised him like any other Kokiri child. Well, almost like any other Kokiri child. You see, the Kokiri weren't always what their appearance suggests, them being a race of seemingly immortal young forest dwellers. They were once Hylians, who chose to retreat into nature rather than join the developing territories of Hyrule. Despite their youthful appearance, the Kokiri do not actually consider themselves children, though their peaceful and carefree existence has helped to preserve their childlike innocence. And through the ages, they've become attuned to the spirits of the forest, in particular to the fairies, who work to protect and inform their charges. The fairies can help them communicate with each other across great distances. Each Kokiri has a fairy companion assigned to them by the Great Deku Tree, with a key exception: the young Hylian orphan, Link. The other Kokiri teased Link for his lack of a fairy, but one person always stood by him: the emerald-haired girl called Saria. Saria's positive and upbeat personality made her well-liked amongst the Kokiri, and, much like a big sister, she often worked to lift Link's spirits in difficult times. And here is where Saria's tale properly begins for us. We first meet Saria at a major moment for Link. The fairy Navi has just awoken him from a fitful slumber to escort him to an audience with the Great Deku Tree. As Link heads to answer his summons, Saria enthusiastically greets him, congratulates Link on finally having a fairy companion, and remarks on what an honor it is to meet face to face with their great protector. What she doesn't know is that Link is about to be entrusted with a grave task: to courageously enter the Great Deku Tree and delve deep into his roots in hopes of breaking a curse cast upon him by a so-called wicked man dressed in black. Link will succeed at eradicating the cursed Spider Queen Goma's infestation, but his efforts ultimately fail to spare the guardian tree from meeting his end. As the ancient spirit shares, his fate had been sealed from the start. With his dying breaths, the great Deku Tree explains how that wicked man dressed in black, Ganondorf, breached the forest's defenses and insisted he take the Kokiri Emerald, one of 3 magical keys that open the doorway to the sacred realm. When the great Deku Tree wouldn't bow to his demands, he blighted the guardian with a fatal plague. Now, Link must do something unprecedented for the Kokiri. Take their spiritual stone of the forest, leave the sanctity and safety of their meadow, and make the long trek to Hyrule Castle to alert the royal family to the villain's fell plan. The great Deku Tree warns Link, if Ganondorf succeeds in his mission of gathering all 3 sacred stones, his evil spirit will taint the sacred realm and plunge the world into darkness. And so, a 10-year-old boy, armed with little more than a child's sword and a wooden shield, takes his first steps away from the only home he's ever known, the fate of the future balancing on his small shoulders. As Link prepares to cross the final threshold to the greater realm beyond, who should appear to say goodbye except his lifelong champion, Saria. She says she always knew Link would end up leaving the forest one day, because he's different from her and the other Kokiri, but that she knows in her heart they'll always be friends forever. Saria then gives Link a musical instrument as a parting gift, the fairy ocarina, and says, quote, "When you play my ocarina, I hope that you will think of me and come back to the forest to visit." Link does eventually make good on that unspoken promise. He completes the great Deku's quest and meets with the young Princess Zelda of Hyrule's royal family. Knowing some of the secrets of the sacred realm passed down from the rulers of old, Zelda orders Link to gather the other 2 spiritual stones, the Goron Ruby and the Zora Sapphire, and obtain the legendary Triforce from the sacred realm before Ganondorf can. Seeking guidance on this colossal task, Link returns to his home in the forest looking for Saria, but she's nowhere to be found. He heads into the mysterious lost woods looking for her, and there hears a familiar sound on the wind, the light, clear tone of Saria's ocarina. Following that tune through the lost woods' winding maze, dodging past dangerous forest denizens along the way, Link eventually finds himself at a clearing known as the Sacred Forest Meadow. This is Saria's secret place. Few know the way here who were not led or called here by heart. Saria often retreats to the Sacred Forest Meadow for alone time, to practice her ocarina or to commune with the deep spirits of the forest. As Link approaches, Saria greets her dear friend again with excitement, and shares a premonition that this sacred meadow will one day be an important place for the 2 of them. Saria then teaches Link her eponymous song, which allows the 2 to communicate telepathically over any distance in Hyrule. This song will prove to be a uniting force beyond bringing together 2 friends separated by circumstance. Along Link's journey, the uplifting melody of Saria's song will help him befriend unlikely allies, like Chief Darunia of the Gorons. We will meet Darunia and hear his tale on another evening, but Link would not meet his friend Saria again for quite some time, until a twist in his tale would see the two reunited 7 years in a world-shifting event later. Part 2. Deep within the Lost Woods. Our hero Link ultimately succeeds in securing both the Goron Ruby and the Zora Sapphire. We'll hear more about those adventures on another evening, but to keep our tale primarily centered on Saria's role in this grand era of Hyrulean history, we will fast forward to Link's arrival at the Temple of Time. The budding young warrior, having bravely surpassed 3 trials now, finds himself at the foot of a great door in a lofty cathedral. Moments earlier, he watched Princess Zelda flee Castletown on horseback, with Ganondorf in pursuit. She secretly tossed Link the Ocarina of Time, which, combined with the Song of Time, opens the door of time. Young Link makes his way into the long sealed chamber, scales the dais, and pulls the legendary Master Sword from its resting pedestal. When this happens, Link is enveloped in a blue-white light and emerges to find himself in a liquid crystalline liminal void known as the Chamber of the Sages. His surroundings are alien to him, and so is his body. Looking down, Link notices his arms are no longer those of a child, but those of a 17-year-old young adult. Suddenly, an elderly man in orange and brown robes appears and introduces himself as the Sage of Light, Rauru. He relays that when Link pulled the Master Sword from its pedestal, it opened a gateway to the sacred realm, through which Ganondorf was able to sneak inside and take the Triforce, the great golden power that balances the forces of the world, for himself. However, Ganondorf's heart was imbalanced, filled with ambitious malice. And that caused the Triforce to split into 3 parts, one aspect of which, the Triforce of Power, Ganondorf still holds. His attempted usurpation did indeed send a plague of evil across Hyrule, as the late great Deku Tree had feared. Rauru further explains that when Link first unsheathed the Master Sword, he was too young to become the hero of destiny who could wield that weapon and defeat Ganondorf. Therefore, his spirit was kept safe for 7 years inside the chamber, until such time as Link was ready to take on the challenge. All the while, the Hyrule he knew as a child fell deeper into despair. With little time now to waste, Rauru tells Link his first step towards defeating the evil king lies in awakening the other 5 sages and combining their powers against him. Rauru then sends Link back to the Temple of Time to confront the challenges of this altered future. Link has one last surprise encounter before leaving the Temple of Time, an innocuous ambush from a mysterious masked Sheikah warrior, known, rather appropriately, as Sheik. Sheik informs Link of a prophecy regarding where to find the remaining 5 sages. Quote, "When evil rules all, an awakening voice from the sacred realm will call those destined to be sages who dwell in the 5 temples, one in a deep forest, one on a high mountain, one under a vast lake, one within the house of the dead, one inside a goddess of the sand. Together with a hero of time, the awakened ones will bind the evil and return the light of peace to the world. This is the legend of the temples passed down by my people, the Sheikah." One in a deep forest. Could it be? After getting his bearings and completing a few side quests, again, stories for another time, Navi relays an urgent message to Link from Saria. She exclaims, quote, "You're safe. I knew I would hear from you again. I'm in the forest temple. The forest spirits were calling for help, so I went to check it out, but it's full of evil monsters. Help me, Link." Rushing to his childhood home in the Kokiri forest, Link finds much has changed in his 7-year absence. For one, Mido, the self-proclaimed boss of the Kokiri, had been spreading a rumor that Link was responsible for the death of the Great Deku Tree, and that was why he suddenly fled the forest. Saria was the only Kokiri who ever spoke out in Link's defense, until one day when she suddenly left to answer the cries of the deep forest spirits. Meanwhile, without the Great Deku Tree's magic protecting the woods, monsters start encroaching deeper into the groves, and even as far as the Kokiri Meadow, forcing the children of the forest to hide inside their homes for safety. When Link arrives to find the cowering Kokiri, the unchanging youths don't immediately recognize their former neighbor in his more mature form, but the presence of his fairy Navi and the Kokiri tunic he still wears give the Kokiri enough reason to trust Link. The Kokiri let Link know that Saria went into the Lost Woods some time ago, and Mido followed after to try and help, but neither ever returned. Link and Navi head into the Lost Woods after them, and eventually run into Mido, who is blocking the way into the deepest corners of the forest. With preternatural quickness, he bars Link from moving forward, until Link decides to play the familiar tune of Saria's song on his ocarina. Realizing that only either Kokiri or trusted friends of Saria could possibly know her song, Mido agrees to let Link through to the Sacred Forest Meadow's entrance. What once was a labyrinth filled with little more than aggressive Deku Scrubs in the past is now home to several armed moblins, terrifying tall pigmen patrolling the grounds on Ganondorf's orders. Their presence deters almost anyone who would dare approach the sacred grove deeper within, but not our hero, Link. Using his childhood knowledge of the hedge maze, he makes it past the moblins and even defeats the giant Sentinel Club moblin, the final foe standing in the way of reaching Saria's secret respite. After all that effort, Link finally approaches the stump where his ally once sat, but sadly, she's nowhere to be found. Her absence is a stark reminder that times have changed. 7 years flashed by in the blink of an eye for Link when he pulled that sword from its pedestal. From his perspective, it was only a few days ago that he stood here as a child, learning a song that would seal his friendship with Saria for life. But the time for childish things has passed. As if summoned by the poignant scene, Sheik appears in the Sacred Forest Meadow alongside Link and shares this observation on the moment. Quote, "The flow of time is always cruel. Its speed seems different for each person, but no one can change it. A thing that doesn't change with time is a memory of younger days. In order to come back here again, play the minuet of forest." Sheik then teaches our hero a delicate tune in 3/4 time. It's a slow dance for two, a musical parallel almost to the melody of Saria's song that she once taught in the same spot. The minuet of forest can warp Link back to the pedestal at the Sacred Forest Meadow from anywhere in Hyrule when played on the Ocarina of Time. The peculiar figure then vanishes in a flash, promising to see Link soon. With little reason save nostalgia left to stay in this spot for much longer, Link looks up, makes his way to the forest temple entrance concealed on the ledge above. Part 3. The Forest Temple and Saria's Sage Awakening. Saria's secret meadow, it turns out, concealed an eerie, abandoned mansion behind it. The ivy-covered architectural marvel will test Link's strength and sanity as he navigates the sprawling estate filled with illusions and terrors throughout. When Link first enters the temple's central room, he spots an elevator surrounded by 4 flaming pillars. Before he can reach it, 4 ghostly Poe sisters emerge and steal away the flames, deactivating the elevator mechanism and sending it out of reach. Link will have to search the mansion for each Poe sister and defeat her to restore the flame and access the elevator. A note for any literature lovers listening tonight: the 4 Poe sisters are each named for the 4 March sisters in the 1868 novel Little Women. There's Amy, the red Poe, Beth, the blue Poe, Joelle, the green Poe, and Meg is the purple Poe. The fate of the Forest Temple's original occupants remains a mystery. There are only 2 remaining categories of inhabitants: creatures like wolves or spiders who wandered in from the woods and are now tainted by Ganondorf's malice, and lost spirits of the forests like Stalfos and the wall masters who now roam the halls in search of victims. Even the courtyards offer little respite. Mad plants and sea creatures now fill the manicured corners. Link must survive them all in hopes of finding out what happened to Saria. After making his way through vines, impossibly twisted hallways, collapsing checkerboard ceilings, and multiple duels with the undead, Link dispels the 4 Poe sisters, descends the elevator, and completes one final puzzle before opening the great door separating him from the Forest Temple's final foe. Inside the windowless boss room is a dais bearing the Triforce insignia on the floor, and on each wall is an identical large-scale painting of a haunted forest pathway leading to a dark mansion in the background. But there's nothing else, no sign of Saria anywhere. As Link turns to leave, spikes shoot up from the ground, barring his escape. Hearing a snorting noise, he turns around to discover Ganondorf's imposing form behind him, atop his menacing black stallion. Then, chuckling, he pulls back his visage, revealing a flaming skull beneath. This is the evil spirit from beyond, Phantom Ganon. Ganondorf's puppet uses his illusion magic to leap between the room's paintings and will try to strike Link when jumping out. Later, he will attack our hero with beams of dark energy Link must either dodge or bandy back. It takes all of his archery and sword fighting skills, but Link eventually strikes the final blow, disintegrating the puppet phantom. But still, Saria does not appear. Telepathically witnessing the fight, Ganondorf congratulates Link on his success thus far, but warns him that their final confrontation, which he now eagerly awaits, won't be quite so easy. Ganondorf then banishes his summons to the gap between dimensions. As it descends to the depths, Link finds himself rising in a crystal portal out of the Forest Temple and back to the Chamber of the Sages. When the bright light dissipates, Link opens his eyes and finally sees his beloved childhood friend he fought so hard to try and rescue. But there can be no embrace nor a shared song. Saria is something different now, and like Link, must take up the mantle fate has laid out for her. She tells Link, quote, "Thank you. Because of you, I could awaken as a sage. I am Saria, the sage of the forest temple. I always believed that you would come, because I know you. No, you don't have to explain it to me, because it is destiny that you and I can't live in the same world. Saria then gives Link the Forest Medallion, its token adding her power to his. As the gateway closes and Link returns to Hyrule, Saria tells Link that she will always be his friend. Following that bittersweetly brief reunion and parting, Link finds himself teleported to the great Deku Tree's grove. There, a sprout of the ancient tree sits at the base of its parent plant. Ganondorf's curse on the forest temple had prevented its germination, but with the evil driven out, and Saria awakened as the forest sage, the young seedling is free to grow into the region's next great guardian. But first, the Deku Sprout tells Link the truth of his origin that you heard earlier this evening, that he is a Hylian whose mother's quick thinking led her into the woods in hopes of a safe haven for her son. And the Deku Tree chose to honor her wish because her son's fate would be linked with that of the entire world. And now, finally, the day of destiny has come, the Sprout concludes. Leaving the grove, on his way back to Hyrule Field, Link encounters Mido patrolling the woods. The stern boss softens at the stranger's approach. With a sad realization, Mido asks the young man for one last favor. Quote, "Oh, I see. Sorry I won't ever come back. But I made a promise to Saria. If Link came back, I would be sure to tell him that Saria had been waiting for him, because Saria really liked... Hey you, if you see him somewhere, please let him know. And also, I'm sorry for being mean to him. Tell him that, too." The pair share a final nod and an unspoken understanding before Link departs for Death Mountain Trail to find the sage tucked away within a high mountain. But Saria still has one final role to play in this tale, as you'll soon hear. Part 4. Defeating the evil King Ganon. After Link awakens the remaining sages, all that remains is his ultimate test of courage, entering Ganondorf's castle, defeating the evil king, rescuing Princess Zelda, and restoring peace and prosperity to Hyrule. Link prepares for what could very well be a one-way trip and heads in the direction of the palace. Where Hyrule Castle and its well-manicured grounds once stood, we now see is home to a volcanic crater. Thankfully, Saria and the sages help Link pass this first hurdle, combining their powers to form a rainbow bridge over the treacherous gap. Once inside the castle's main chamber, Link spots 6 doors with colored beams of light emanating out from a spike above them, powering a force field over the central pillar. Each door bears the symbol of a different sage above it. With a deep breath, he enters the one marked with the familiar green pinwheel that denotes Saria's trial. The forest trial is twofold. First, Link enters a room with a design reminiscent of something he would have seen in the Forest Temple Manor, guarded by a vicious wolfos. After defeating it, Link must light all the torches in the room to proceed to the second puzzle. This next room has several platforms above an endless void, with heavily blowing fans that make it difficult to safely leap from place to place. Once Link successfully collects 5 silver rupees here, the final door will open to the forest seal. A pulsating orb surrounded by green energy sits in the middle of this room. When Link shoots it with a light arrow, the barrier dissolves, and Saria's form appears in its place, telling Link to hurry. Link heeds Saria's advice, dispelling all of the barriers, and eventually begins his final battle with Ganondorf, who ultimately will shed his human form using the Triforce of Power to become the pig demon Ganon. After a mighty struggle, Link manages to strike the final blow, and Saria combines her power with that of the other sages to seal Ganondorf's spirit inside the sacred realm. Their monumental challenge complete, Princess Zelda sends Link back in time to speak with her father and prevent Ganondorf's rise to power, while simultaneously giving him a chance to experience the peaceful Kokiri childhood that fate had briefly stolen from him. Still in the future timeline, Saria and the other 5 sages sit atop Death Mountain, watching from afar as a newly liberated Hyrule celebrates a brighter future ahead. Part 5. Saria's Legacy. Though Saria's tale, as far as we know it, ends with the events of Ocarina of Time, her legacy lives on through references in other Zelda media. We actually first encounter Saria's name in the 1987 game Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Saria Town, also known as the Water Town of Saria, is one of several locations that Link will visit as he tries to prevent Ganon's resurrection in this era. The small town was infiltrated with Ganon's minions, in particular bat monsters called Aches, who disguise themselves as women to try and pass through town undetected. Speaking of Saria's name, a note here on its etymology. While similar to the name Sarah, it also contains the word aria, or an emotional song for a solo voice, appropriate given the character's strong relationship to music. The Zelda Wiki also pointed out that fellow Kokiri Mido and Fado, or Mido, potentially, and Fado, have solfege names, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, highlighting the musicality of the children of the forest in general. Additionally, Saria's name remains the same across all version translations of the game, though of course the pronunciation does differ between Japanese, Chinese, Italian, French, and English versions of Ocarina. In the 2002 game, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, Hyrule Castle's basement houses a secret shrine to the Hero of Time, and in it are 6 stained glass windows depicting each of the sages from Ocarina of Time. Saria's verdant portrait displays the Kokiri girl seemingly at peace in a field of green leaves. The Wind Waker takes place in a future branch of the Zelda timeline, where Zelda and Link had successfully beaten Ganon, and afterwards Saria and the other sages continue to monitor Hyrule from afar in a new era of peace. It's clear Saria's memory and saga lived on through Hyrule's royal family in the generations that followed. The Kokiri exist in this distant future as well, though they've transformed from their childlike Hylian appearances into a race of tiny wooden forest dwellers who wear leaves over their faces. These are known as the Koroks, and I'd love to do a deep dive on them one day soon too. Our final homage to Saria, so far, is a landmark in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom known as Lake Saria. It lies within a remote part of the Koroks territory in the Lost Woods, and there you'll spot a circular lake with a mound and a large tree in the center as a landmark. In Breath of the Wild, Lake Saria is the endpoint for a trial created by the Koroks to test their bravery. In Tears of the Kingdom, Lake Saria seems like it mostly serves as a space where forest folk could reflect and perhaps find some treasure or resources nearby. And that's about it. If you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video or for coming back to this and watching it again after you fell asleep. Saria's video covers a lot of ground for Ocarina of Time's lore, and I will avoid retreading too much of it when covering the remaining sages. Beyond that, again, consider subscribing, interacting with this video. If you liked it, it takes a lot of hard work and human hours to put all of these together. My work is made with 100% love and 0% AI, so your support is major in helping out a small but growing creator. And beyond Ocarina of Time sages, let me know what characters you'd like to learn about in the future. I'll try and add those to my list to research. So other than that, take care. Good night. I'll see you in my next video. In terms of lore, up next we'll be talking about Darunia, our fire sage. And I do have planned very soon a full-length rogue video instead of just a short little thing. So stick around. Good night.